Dear students, we have already covered the overview of the rural infrastructure, and in that session we have covered the importance of infrastructure and the types of infrastructure, financing of infrastructure and all other aspects of rural infrastructure. Now we will be going about the macro level programs of central government for provision of infrastructure in rural areas. So earlier there was no focus on the infrastructure programs, and only on local level some programs were going on by various state governments and other agencies. After 1980s, need was felt to provide some of the facilities to rural areas which were very considered very essential, and slowly we picked up towards provision of infrastructure in rural areas, but all these programs were implemented by state government and funded partly by central government. Later on, after 1990, lot of discussion was made to have some central programs for provision of infrastructures, and some of the programs were devised one by one, and lot of emphasis was given on all type of infrastructures, and especially giving all the facilities which are available to urban people. The first such program was Rural Infrastructure Development Fund. Another was PMGSY, that is also Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana, and latest is Bharat Nirman. And one of the program was Pura, that is providing urban amenities in rural areas. Now we will go one by one. RIDF was launched in 1995-96. The full form of RIDF is Rural Infrastructure Development Fund. It means this is a program which provides funds for rural development projects. And first such program was announced in 1995-96. This was basically planned at completing the incomplete rural development projects and financing the state governments in the areas where projects are lying incomplete for want of funds. The source of fund was unique. Earlier no such source was identified. It was basically cycling public money for public works, and the main aim was to provide rural infrastructure through public funds, and that is that it was channeled by public savings lying in the banks, and there is a complete target for diverting of funds to rural and priority sector, that is about 40%, and whatever shortfall is there by banking sector for provision of loans to priority sector lending, that shortfall was diverted for financing state governments for completing these projects. The year-wise allocation you can see on the board. We have indicated it is increasing every year. It started from 2000 crores and now it is increasing day by day. Another thing which was very unique, that funds were provided to state governments as loans. Earlier all funds were provided to state governments were as a grant, and there was no monitoring or project approach and utilization monitoring for in respect of those funds. So first time project approach was implemented, and in this project approach all funds were provided as a loan, and these loans were to be repaid in definite time period. So some of the guidelines were made, and these guidelines one by one I will tell you. First is submitting project report. If you want to avail loan under RIDF, any state government has to submit a project report and NABARD is the nodal agency for scrutiny of these project reports. Project report contains all the necessary things which are required for scrutiny of any project, like its aim, its target group, total financing, and its phasing, its benefit, the target beneficiaries, the amount which will be coming, the repayment schedule, all the things which are necessary for a project report, they are to be included. And you can see the contents of a good project report on the board. They are given, and most of the important thing was cost benefit ratio. And in plan approach, these things were not given emphasis. Whatever plan funds were made available to state governments, they were to be simply used for the purpose. And so many times these funds were diverted also. So when benefit cost ratio was calculated, mainly it was it should be more than 1, and the discounting factor which was taken for project appraisal, it was 15%. The another aspect was the allocation of funds. Allocation of funds to various state governments was done on the basis of the population, the infrastructure index, the utilization of previous funds, etc. What is the area requirement of that area? As all of us are aware, in earlier days, the plan approach was followed for all the projects, any of the rural development or urban development, whatever it may be. Plan approach means allocation of plan funds pre-decided to and allocated to each state government or other departments for carrying out certain works, and they were to submit the report of utilization, and in between monitoring the benefits and other things were silent. And in the project report, project approach, it was more professional, and guidelines were issued to all the state governments to follow project approach for availing RIDF funds. What is the meaning? Means what will change from earlier plan approach and now project approach? It is for the purpose of getting RIDF finance, each state government has to submit a project report, and that project report should contain number one, purpose. For what purpose? Means it may be irrigation, it may be road, it may be any other activity. Then another thing is cost estimate. Cost estimates are very important for any project sanction, and they are generally based on the approved rates of state government for the any work, schedule of rates, and they are prepared very scientifically and in detail. Another thing is implementation mechanism. How the project will be implemented by state government, either through inviting contracts or by direct engagement of labor or any other means. Then monitoring details, how the project is going to be monitored. This is one of the most important aspect of project approach, because earlier monitoring mechanism was not in place and funds utilization were only seen at the end of financial year, that is March. Now a detailed monitoring mechanism has to be in place for every RIDF project. So they have to give at the time of submission of project what will be monitoring mechanism and how monitoring will be done, how reporting will be done. The next thing in a project report will be analysis of benefits. What benefits are going to come from a project? In case of infrastructure project, it may be road project, it may be irrigation project, it may be rural go down project, and other soft components are also there, like education, like health, like IT. So whenever a road project is there, benefits could be saving in diesel, saving in petrol, saving in time, saving in terms of our marketing cost, saving in terms of getting timely inputs. So many type of savings are there for a road project. Similarly, for irrigation projects, if we are able to supply water in time, crop production will be enhanced. That is one of the benefit, and it can be quantified in terms of money. But all the benefits cannot be quantified in terms of money. Like in case of any electricity project, there will be improvement in many areas, like children will be educated, better law and order situation will be there, more working hours will be there will be scope for non-farm activities due to electricity. Means altogether life of a village will change, but all these things cannot be told in terms of monetary values. So these social aspects are also indicated in any RIDF project, that what benefits will be there which cannot be changed in monetary terms. Another thing is income generation to pupil. What will be income generation to ultimate beneficiaries? The main beneficiary of the project is state government because they are availing loan. But it is not for state government people. It is ultimately for rural people. And ultimately it is to be repaid from budget sources. So people are the main beneficiaries. So which section of the people will get benefit and what benefit, that will also be incorporated in the project. Then employment generation. How much direct and indirect employment will be generated out of the project, that is also very important. Each project report indicates that what will be the employment generation from this project. Then how much in terms of quantity is going to come, means if it is a road, how much kilometers are going to be added. If it is irrigation water, how much cubic feet of water is going to come, so on. And another important aspect which now has been added is environmental impact. What will be impact? What will be the impact of environmental studies? What will happen to environment due to this implementation of this project? These aspects will be included in the project report. After a project report is received by NABARD, it is NABARD's responsibility to appraise the project in all the terms, whether it is technical, whether it is financial or economical or environmental. Every type of appraisal is to be done by NABARD. And NABARD is the key agency for implementation of RIDF. So they have been entrusted with this task from Government of India. And NABARD has set up a separate department for dealing with RIDF projects. Whenever a proposal is received from state government, it is appraised by NABARD and a committee of officers at high level sanctions these projects. Another thing which is very important is the specific project loan. The loans are not given to state governments in bulk, means 1000 crore, 2000 crore for implementation of a group of projects. It is not there. Earlier in plan approach, this type of approach was there, but now in project approach, loans are given only for a specific purpose for project wise. Diversion of fund is not allowed and is not possible. Loans are dispersed project wise and their repayment is also received project wise. If anything is to be deferred or any loan is to be extended or time period is to be extended, all these things are done project wise. The source of refund of loans is budget. Directly the persons who are benefited from these projects, they are not going to pay anything, whether it is road, whether it is canal, whether it is primary school, whatever it may be. The beneficiaries are not paying the amount directly to the banks who are giving loan for RIDF. Banks are funding and NABARD is channelizing the funds. So state government has to make provision in budget every year for repayment of RIDF loans. 4 or 5 schemes, 4 or 5 tranches may be running together. So they have to make provision for every repayment in the budget, and they have also to make arrangement for their portion of funds in any project. It may not be 100% funding by NABARD in every project. Another thing is monitoring of RIDF projects by external agencies and NABARD. Though the primary responsibility of implementation of RIDF is on state government who is availing the loan, they have to monitor the project, they have to keep the data, and they have to supply the data. But NABARD has been given by central government the responsibility of monitoring the project at every level. They have to get returns, they have to furnish the information to central government, and they have to go to site for monitoring the projects. And NABARD is doing it at district levels also, at state level also, and all projects are monitored by a high power committee which is set up at state government level, and chief secretary is head of the committee, and NABARD has to organize that. So NABARD is taking keen interest in implementation of this project, and they are deploying their persons for monitoring of projects. Both field monitoring and desk monitoring is responsibility of NABARD, but primary responsibility still lies with state government. What is the objective? Objective of this monitoring is to complete the projects in time so that there is no cost overrun or time overrun. Everybody knows that cost overruns and time overruns are very common in government projects due to various type of problems, bureaucratic approach for implementation, rules and regulation, tenders, contractors. So many types of delays happen, and to avoid these delays, time to time monitoring studies are suggesting the measures, and these measures are being implemented by state governments. Because any increase in time also results in corresponding increase in cost, and cost escalation again means a new loan, a less benefit from a project, and less IRR. That is why NABARD's emphasis, government's emphasis is to complete every project in time. Another aspect is quality. At the time of implementation, if a project is monitored from point of view of quality also, then we can ensure that end quality of a project will be better and it will live its life. Means if a canal is constructed, there will be no seepage, there will be no tail end problem, water will be distributed to everybody, and proper water will float up to end. So such type of things are necessary for roads, for everything, maybe primary school building. Even there, quality is also important, because safety and security of the children who are learning there is very important. Another aspect is identification of opportunities. Whenever a team goes to a RIDF project site, their main aim is to find out new opportunities generated out of a project. New opportunities are always generated whenever a big project is implemented. It may be road project. If a road is constructed in a rural area, the area which is lying on both sides of the road starts developing, business develops, shops are developing, many type of markets, many type of hearts are coming to both sides of the roads. Similarly, the electricity generation, any other thing, whatever may be the rural infrastructure is there, if any project is implemented, you will see that a new opportunity is generated with every project. It may be business opportunity, it may be other opportunity, maybe more schooling, maybe more children going to school. A proper road, a proper electric connection in rural area will result in these things: good health, people going to hospital in less time, children reaching to school in less time. They are appearing in examination with as per schedule. So every project has benefits which are not identified at the time of formulation, but they happen, and identifying these opportunities is one of the aim of monitoring. Now we will come to another aspect, that is financing. Earlier days, the RRDF projects were financed only to state government, and state government was the only beneficiary of RIDF funds, and they were implementing projects. At the later dates, it was thought that other agencies can also join these, they can also get benefit from these funds, and these agencies are state government corporations, Panchayati Raj institutions, and NGOs. With the certain conditions and guarantees given by state governments, the loans are also extended to these organizations for working under RIDF projects. Now you can see on the screen the list of the projects which are eligible under RIDF. These activities are increasing day by day. These projects started from irrigation earlier days in 1996, 97, 98. Irrigation was given emphasis, and it was the most important activity under RIDF. Later on, roads were added, then buildings were added, bridges were added, and slowly school buildings, panchayat buildings, all type of infrastructure facilities, electrification, etc. also were considered. And at a later date, it was considered that soft components of the infrastructure like education, like health, telecommunication, knowledge centers, they all should be part of RIDF funding. And now the list has more than 32 items, and it is not exhaustive. It can be further added, and it will be added in future also based on the feedback received from monitoring studies and also from the state governments. The social sector projects like education, like health, like knowledge centers, they require two types of infrastructures. One is infrastructure of hard component like buildings. A primary education center will need a good building, but it will require human infrastructure also like good teachers, and a primary health center will require paramedical staff and doctors. So benefit can be reaped only if the concerned state government is able to provide those kinds of services in already provided infrastructure. Another thing is PPP, a new concept which is added to RIDF. What is PPP? It is public-private partnership. Means now we want that projects are not implemented only by government, but it should be by private and public sector bodies also. Reason is earlier only state government was considered as a provider of infrastructure, and the main reason behind this is that income generation from rural infrastructure projects was low, and the restricted user charges were there, and increasing these user charges was a political issue. Maybe canal irrigation water, maybe electricity charges or toll charges on road. All these issues were very politically sensitive, and another bodies from private sector or public sector, they were not intervening in rural infrastructure projects due to the above. Only government was able to provide these projects because these were to be funded from their budget. So now it was thought that in other areas, when PPP model is being implemented successfully, why it should not be implemented in rural areas? Corporate areas, earlier corporate bodies considered it a high risk zone, and intervening they were not intervening in the rural infrastructure kind of thing, because they were considering agriculture is a high risk business, and from the date of sowing of seeds and up to marketing of the crops, risk is involved at every step. So why to put your hand in such a risky business? Another thing was issue of subsidy and issue of minimum support prices. So it was not considered as a commercial activity at all. When an activity is not being considered commercial, then the private bodies or public sector bodies will not put their hand into it, because subsidy was involved, because minimum support price was involved, and giving subsidy to these bodies was ruled out directly or indirectly. Various laws are also there related to uses of rural land, distribution of rural land, change of uses of rural land. So this legislative framework also came as a hurdle, and later date it was thought that we should remove these hurdles one by one and bring private and public sector bodies in this gamut of rural development. So legislations were changed, and public sector and private bodies were invited to join this rural infrastructure sector and make it more viable, make it more vibrant, and also give the whatever strength they can give. Both government and public sector and private sector, they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Government has strength, it has lot of staff, it has lot of manpower, it has lot of land at its disposal, law and order machinery is at its disposal, and all earlier infrastructure created by government is also at its disposal. And private sector can contribute as an efficient management project manager, and they can implement the projects in much faster rate as compared to government. So they have their own benefits, and government has its own strength. So combining strength of public sector, private sector and government sector is the main aim of PPP. And with that goal, PPP model was introduced in RID. Some beginning has been made, and some projects like village knowledge centers, rural godowns, development of tourist spots, and development of small hydroelectric units have been taken in this model, and you can see on the board the achievements in this area, and we will also see the total achievement by RIDF as a whole since beginning. And what is the way ahead? Way ahead is 1 lakhs of villages. Lakhs of villages are yet to be provided with basic infrastructure facilities. Basic facilities like roads, like health facilities, facilities like education, they all are lacking still in most of the rural areas. And until and unless every area is covered, the RIDF or any other project will not come to an end. So we have all covered RIDF. Now we will go to another major infrastructure project, that is PMGSY. It is Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana. It is a scheme formulated by Government of India exclusively for rural roads. Earlier, many agencies were providing rural roads like PWD, like this PWD or Rural Engineering Department and Panchayati Raj Department. In some places, KN Department was also providing rural roads. But this infrastructure was not good, and connectivity to all villages was a very rare thing, and only in some of the states we were getting all the rural areas connected to cities or nearby towns. So for developing a road network, Government of India set up a committee that was known as National Rural Road Development Committee, and it was formed in January 2000. This committee worked and it gave its report in December 2000, and based on the report of this committee, the PMGRY launched. PMGRY, it was only for development of rural roads, nothing else. And its implementation was given to Ministry of Rural Development, not to Ministry of Surface Transport, which is responsible for other roads. But in case of rural roads, the entire responsibility was given to Ministry of Rural Development. And this ministry is developing roads through state governments, and this is a 100% centrally sponsored scheme, and central government is financing from its budget to total cost of this scheme. And the main feature is that all the deficiencies of earlier programs, whatever may be the road program implemented by any of the agency, all deficiencies were considered one by one, and the attempt was made to remove all the deficiencies as possible, as far as possible. And now the most of the targets are being achieved from in this PMGSY. The main aim of PMGSY was to connect each and every village to the nearby area, so that whatever problem they have in earlier days, this can be sorted out. And phasing has been done to connect all the roads based on the population of the villages. In hilly areas, the population is 500, and in plain areas, the population has been targeted as 1000 for giving first priority for connection. The concept has been modified. Earlier, there was a pick and choose system for construction of roads, and now they have developed a core network. After discussion among authorities at district level, a core network has been developed at each district. Core network means the network which will result in 100% connectivity. So on the basis of the core network, the roads are being constructed. The typical core network you can see on the board. This shows a typical core network, and on the basis of this you can understand that how a core network is finalized for a district. Second thing was quality control. In all types of projects in rural areas, quality control is always considered as a big problem, basically due to vast area and the distances which one has to travel for quality control. So this aspect was considered at the time of conceiving this PMGSY, and three-tier system of quality control was developed. Three-tier system means independently three agencies will be doing quality control. Primary quality control will be done by implementing agency, that will be state government. The secondary quality control will be done by other agencies involved by central government for this purpose. And third checking will be done by national level quality monitors at the random level. And for the purpose of quality control, the central government has engaged services of many engineering colleges in each of the state, and they are doing quality control at second level. And at third level, the quality control is being done through IITs. They are checking randomly, and they are advising the state governments whatever their findings are and the payment of contractors is done only by only after rectification of any defect which is found. The quality control aspect has been considered, and most of the reports are saying that 90% roads are have been built with good quality. Then the monitoring aspect, like RIDF, lot of emphasis has been given on monitoring, and a web-based management system has been developed by government for monitoring these projects. This system is available on the net, and whatever progress is there, it can be seen on net. All villages covered, including name of villages, where project is going on, what has been the progress, and what is the future program. Every information can be seen on the net, on the website of this especially designed website for PMGSY. Then another aspect was the design of roads. Earlier, a uniform design, uniform type of materials were used for all the projects in different states. Now emphasis was given that each road, each type of project should have unique design based on the material available, based on the requirement of area. Means in Rajasthan only sand may be available, in south red soil may be available, in north good quality stone may be available. So whatever local material is there, it should be used, and based on the local requirements, rainfall, the load coming on the road, these roads are designed, and proper design manual has been developed, and these designs have been prepared by STAs, and STAs are state level technical authorities, and they are engineering colleges at state levels, and STAs are functioning at the states in consultation with the state governments. And identified institutions are giving help to state government for providing not only designs, but they are also providing services for consultancy related to any of the aspect. It may be specification, it may be quality control, it may be implementation, subgrade, whatever slope is required to be maintained. Every type of consultancy these STAs are giving to state government. And in addition to STAs, PTAs have been authorized to supervise the activities of STAs. They are principal technical advisors, and they are supervising the activities of STAs in all of the matters, and they are also doing quality audits of the roads. Generally, IITs are functioning as PTAs. And another aspect which has been covered is maintenance of these roads. Generally, we see that roads and other infrastructure projects, they are made, lot of capital investment is done on these projects, and afterwards they are maintained very poorly, or funds are not at all available for their maintenance. So first thing was done that first 5-year maintenance will be done by the contractor who has constructed the road, and this clause has been included in the tender, where at the time of floating the tender, and these contractors or agencies, they are maintaining these roads for 5 years, and after 5 years it will be the responsibility of concerned state government to maintain these roads, and they have to provide a proper allocation in their budget for maintenance of these roads. In some states, panchayati level institutions have also been involved for maintenance of these roads, and we can see that lot of achievements have been done, and some whatever is left over, this will also be covered in the covered in the time bound manner, and we will be able to achieve the target of connecting all the rural areas to this road, to this under this program. So we can conclude that PMGSY has been successful in providing connectivity to all rural areas and bringing prosperity. Now we will talk about another very big scheme which has been started by central government, and this scheme is known as Bharat Nirman. Bharat Nirman is a time-bound scheme to provide rural infrastructure in all the areas, and major components of rural infrastructure have been covered. Bharat Nirman seeks to complete all the projects in a time-bound manner, just like a business plan. And the major areas which have been covered under Bharat Nirman are irrigation, roads, rural housing, rural water supply, and rural electrification and telecommunication. The time-bound targets have been fixed by various ministries for implementation of these projects, and various ministries have been given primary responsibility to implement these projects in a time bound manner. And again, implementation is through many agencies. In some cases it is through state government, in some cases it is through corporations, and in some cases even private agencies are also implementing these projects, like in telecommunication. Targets very specific and time bound. This is the main theme of the Bharat Nirman. Now we will discuss it subhead wise, and one by one we will take the each type of activity. Again, this is again the concept is to induce sense of urgency. Means things will not wait. This is the sense of urgency which has been created through this Bharat Nirman approach, and all the ministries are taking these targets very seriously now. And accountability is the another criteria. Accountability has to be fixed and transparency is to be there. These things have been added. Means what? Transparency. Transparency means if you are going to connect some villages through roads and getting some finance from central government, you have to give names of those villages, and those names will be published, so anybody can verify whether funds have been utilized for that purpose or it has been diverted. Such type of transparency has been introduced in this program. And the ultimate aim is to unlock the potential which is lying in rural areas in any form. It may be knowledge, it may be transport, it may be harvest, it may be more productivity, any type of potential which can be harvested by providing infrastructure is the only aim, ultimate aim for this scheme. Like if you provide proper electricity to any village, there will be floodgate of opportunities in any area, in agriculture, in non-farm sector, in hospitals, in education, in law and order. Every situation will improve with the provision of electricity, and there is no doubt about it. So one by one we will discuss. First we will discuss about electricity only, and the implementation of electrical programs means provision of electricity in Bharat Nirman is being done through Ministry of Power, and the ultimate implementation is being done by Rural Electrification Corporation. The main time bound aim is to provide electricity to 1,25,000 villages which have not been covered by any of the scheme of rural electrification. And by what is the meaning of electrification of a village? This concept has been changed. Earlier concept was, if there is a pole in a village and that pole has a electrical connection, that village was considered to be a electrified village. Now that definition has been changed. The components of rural electrification have been changed. Now their concept is that there should be at least one 33 by 11 kV substation in a block. Second, there should be one transformer grid supply or stand-alone power generation in every village. And in case of grid power cannot be made available, the stand-alone generation arrangements are to be made in rural areas, and for this purpose they are also taking help of the Ministry of Non-Conventional Energy, and in some of areas which are non-reachable, or the cost of electricity generation or getting power from the grid is very costly. Now power is being generated through stand-alone generators or solar or wind energy or any other means, and in some areas micro hydroelectric has been also used for this purpose. Then norms for electrification of village we were discussing. So now it has been added that village panchayat, village school, PHC, etc. all should be electrified. Then only village will be considered as electrified. And minimum 10% people living in the area should have electrical connection. This is another criteria of this scheme. And lot of emphasis has been given that in case of any village has separate basti or separate inhabitation for Dalits, that area should also have electrical connection. So there is entire change in thinking of rural electrification in this scheme, and Rural Electrification Corporation is implementing this scheme on all the states. 90% of the cost is being shared by central government, and it is provided through Rural Electrification Corporation as subsidy, and 10% subsidy is also being given for connection to households of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people, and there is no subsidy on connections being given to other people. So we can hope that every household in rural area will be electrified under this project very soon, and they will reap the benefits of electricity in future. The next important thing which has been covered in Bharat Nirman is road. Roads are, we all know that roads are the arteries of a nation, and this is true in case of rural areas also. If road connectivity is there, there will be all-round development, and we can see this by visiting any rural area which is connected by road and which is not connected by road. If area is connected by road, lot of activities start developing without any government program or any other initiative. Road itself brings development to area. This theme has been taken, and roads are being developed in all the rural areas. The main agency which is implementing this project is Ministry of Rural Development, and there is a very big target, and that target is that all the villages above 1000 population and all tribal or hilly areas with 500 population will be connected by 2009, and this project will be implementation on the lines of PMGSY. So we need not discuss this again, and entire cost will be shared by Government of India, and complete project implementation under Bharat Nirman will be done on the lines of PMGSY, and the estimated value which has been estimated by experts for providing connectivity to all the people will be around 48,000 crores. But there is a gap in the implementation, means we do not have agencies and we do not have skilled people to complete these works in these times, because in rural areas constructing the roads with the quality needed under Bharat Nirman or PMGSY is scarce, but even then quality is being maintained. Maybe progress may be somewhat slow, but it is being done. Roughly 77,000 kilometers road has been covered, and other progress up to 2009 and 10. It is expected that entire work will be completed, and finance is also being taken through RIDF. Now you can see on board the targets and achievements under this scheme. The another scheme under this Bharat Nirman is provision of drinking water. Provision of safe drinking water is a very important thing for rural areas, and it is a dream for rural areas everywhere. In some areas of India, the provision of drinking water is still very scarce thing, and people are not getting good quality drinking water. In some areas water is there, but quality of the water is not there. Both the issues are being addressed under Bharat Nirman, and again this project of drinking water is to be implemented by Ministry of Rural Development. Earlier, accelerated rural development, rural water supply program was developed, and that program had covered some of the villages, and all the leftover villages which have not been covered in accelerated rural water supply scheme, they are to be covered in this program. Most of the guidelines and most of the implementation is as per previous program, and the drinking water provision has been made for every 250 persons. Means a hand pump should be there, or in areas where hand pumps are not there, supply is through any other means, a stand post should be there for every 250 persons. And it should be available within 1.6 kilometers in plain areas or within 100-meter elevation in hilly areas. So water quality is important, and water availability is also being taken care, that people should not go long ways and they should not go to very far off stretches for collecting drinking water. Another thing is, it is also giving emphasis on sources where quality has been affected, or the earlier borings have gone dry. So improvement of quality of these sources and also regeneration of sources, reboring of hand pumps, all these areas have been covered. Names of habitats which are to be covered in each scheme, they are to be provided for getting finance. This has been done for the purpose of transparency. 50% funds under this scheme will be provided by Government of India, and 50% funds will be provided by state governments. And the achievements, whatever achievements have been taken, you can see on the board, and whatever is required to be done, that also has been listed. So we can see that time will come when all the rural areas, including hilly areas, will have a safe drinking water source in nearby. The next important thing which has been included in Bharat Nirman is telephone communication. Telecommunication. Telecommunication importance, we all know, it has already been discussed also, and Department of Telecommunication and Ministry of Communication both have been given responsibility to provide telephone connection to each and every rural habitat. 67,000 villages have been identified which do not have the telecommunication connectivity, and by 2009 these targets are to be achieved. The scheme is not being funded by government, and this scheme is being funded through Universal Service Levy on telecommunication revenue, and this whatever service providers are earning through basic telecom services, they have to give a levy to government, and this connectivity is being funded through that levy. Under this scheme, only connectivity is not being ensured. It is also being ensured that each village has some public telephone connection, so that those who cannot afford a private telephone connection, they can also utilize telecommunication facilities through public telephone. Internet connectivity is also being considered under this scheme, and the problem in internet connectivity is power. Unless and until all villages are covered by electrification, internet connectivity may not be possible. And now we can see the achievements and targets under this scheme. Next very important thing which has been covered under Bharat Nirman is irrigation. We have a separate discussion on irrigation, also a separate module you will be able to see, but we will discuss about irrigation in short. The goal under Bharat Nirman is to provide 10 million hectares of additional irrigation capacity by 2009. 10 million hectares will mean a very big area being covered by irrigation, and it will increase our agriculture productivity to a greater extent, and Ministry of Water Resources will implement this program with under active support of the state governments. We will cover fully in irrigation module, and only the overview of the scheme is given on the board, and you can see what are the targets and what are the achievements in irrigation sector. We have already seen the various targets, various achievements, and the complete picture of Bharat Nirman, and whatever has been provided and whatever will be provided, this also has been indicated. The next scheme we will develop, which is to be implemented in all over India, and it is meant for lifting the lives of the rural people, means providing them amenities which are not provided till today and which are matching to the amenities provided in urban areas. This program is known as PURA, that is providing urban amenities in rural areas. This program was launched by then President of India, Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, on the 54th Republic Day Eve. This aims at providing amenities similar to urban areas. And the approach is not village wise. The approach under this program is very different from other programs. Cluster based approach has been developed. Pura is taking development of clusters, means development of some nearby villages, taking into account and making and treating them as a cluster. Once cluster is developed, it will be developed on the basis of some connectivity, and the following type of connectivity is being considered for cluster development. Within a cluster, road, power, electronic and knowledge connectivity will be there, and in addition to that, market connectivity will be there. Means a cluster should have proper connectivity of road in itself, power, whatever it may be through grid or it may be standalone generation, it should be connected. Internet or telephone connectivity should be there. Knowledge means schools or whatever is available, ITIs or any other knowledge center, they should be connected to each other. And market connectivity within the cluster should be there. And IIT Roorkee has been identified to coordinate this scheme with all the state governments for the purpose of e-connectivities. Specific targets have been fixed, and some targets have been given to state governments. So we can see that central government has taken lot of initiatives for provision of infrastructure facilities in rural areas, and there are several schemes which are running. It may be RIDF, it may be PMGSY, it may be Bharat Nirman. One by one we have covered all, and we have gone through their funding, their targets, their achievements, and how they are going to benefit. So we conclude with this. Thank you.
बच्चों, भारत कैसे बनता है?
गांव-गांव से। वो कैसे?
तो सुनो।
गांव गांव संवरता है, तब अपना भारत बनता है। जब बच्चा बच्चा पढ़े लिखे, सब चेहरों पर सेहत खिले, जब मेहनत को अवसर मिले, तब गांव गांव संवरता है, अब अपना भारत बनता है। जब रोशनी से हर घर मिले, जब राहों से दूरी मिटे, जब दूर अपनों से जुड़े, अब गांव गांव संवरता है, अब अपना भारत।
गांव गांव में हो रहा है भारत का निर्माण। आए इसे सफल बनाएं। भारत निर्माण, चले नई आजादी की ओर।